Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to continue our look at The Legend of Kamui, the great ninja comic by Sanpei Shirato. We are now up to number 27 through 29. That's what we're going to look at today. And the intrigue continues. Another badly colored cover. It's pretty ugly. So we see Utsetse is still mentoring and training that little kid from before. Can't think of his name right now, but he's the only little kid in Kamui, so you know who he is. And it's going well. He's learning stuff. And then three ninjas show up to talk to Utsetse. Now, if you remember, these same ninjas have basically made a deal with the Yagyu, the samurais, to basically hand over Utsetse. Because the Yagyu, the Owari Yagyu to be more specific, they want to kill Utsetse for stealing their sword techniques. But they're basically saying, yeah, you got to go to the Yagyu territory, Owari. That's where Kamui is. And he knows that something's wrong with the story. He's kind of suspicious. And these ninjas who are supposed to be like masters of duplicity and cunning, they can't help but sweat. I mean, it's so obvious these guys are lying, you know. They're hiding something. So he demands that they take him to the dead ninjas' bodies, because Kamui last time killed some ninjas. And he says, I want to see the bodies. It gets to the point where he's like, take me there or die. So I'm pretty sure Utsetse knows these guys are up to no good. So something doesn't smell kosher, you know. He's convinced. But then all of a sudden they hear this voice. Silence, Utsetse. Agenin is a foot soldier in the ninja clan. That's like the low level. That's basically what all these guys are. Agenin should simply follow orders, do as you're told. And it's this raven in a tree. But of course, this is just another ninja trick. And basically it's the Ogashira of the ninja clan. That's the leader. He's the head honcho. He's basically talking through this raven. So this is like total fantasy here. And they even admit in the Ninja Secrets article at the end of this issue that, yeah, this is probably folklore and legend. I mean, supposedly they could throw their voice as long as they were near. But the Ogashira is back in some city. And supposedly he's talking through this raven over 100 miles or something, you know. So this is not all realistic. So we cut back to the little kid training, and all of a sudden that crazy monk shows up. And as soon as the kid sees him, he does his, this always makes me laugh, the sword technique. It's kusanagi. It's just like the technique is falling flat on your face. It's like the ankle biter technique. Because then you can chop down your foes at their ankles. So he says, who taught you that technique, boy? And he says, my mother did. And he says, are you Juzo Makuta's son? And he says, you know my father? And he says, yeah. So the little boy tells him, I've been searching for my father. And actually, I'm with this guy, Utsetse, who's helping me out. And the mad monk starts laughing, and he says, "That's quite a coincidence." Meanwhile, Utsetse's sitting here on top of this giant rock, and he's wondering why Kamui chose the path of the Nukenin. It takes a lot to, force a ninja to turn rogue, basically, Nukenin. And then in his mind, he has a flashback to their battle. His battle with Kamui. These are just some really fun pages here. I love these inset panels at all different angles. And so the little kid comes up with the monk. He says, "Sensei, this monk says he knows my father." And the monk says, "Yes, why don't you let the boy come with me?" And he says, "Who are you?" And he says, "I see the shadow of death on your face, young man." His little catchphrase. And that's basically an invitation to engage in battle. And it looks like Utsetse totally caves his skull in. But if you've read Kamui before, you know that's just another ninja mind trick. And he actually caught the staff in his hands and did not get his skull bashed in. And so they continue their battle. This monk, just seems to be unstoppable. He seems like he could kick Kamui's ass, kick Utsetse's ass. He's just a master ninja. And so, using his mind fuckery, once again, he's like, I don't know, 50 feet away. Just appears, it looks like he magically leaps 50 feet away. And he's got the kid in his arms. And he says, "I'm taking the boy. I'll await you at Yagyu Retreat." And then all of a sudden, he can't move. He's frozen. And this is another ninja trick, the Kanashibari. Literally steel bound, a technique that temporarily paralyzes an opponent. Here's the Ninja Secrets 3 mysterious techniques. And they're talking about all the weird things ninjas can do, but they probably couldn't do, actually. Number 28, another hideous looking cover. I don't know what's going on with this colorist. So now, I forgot to mention this part of the sword one is Kasose. So now we're in Kasose part 2. And we see Kamui on his little raft. And he's heading to Yagyu anyway, but the samurai from Yagyu Castle, the Owari Castle, they show up and say, "We're here to escort you." And Kamui says, "What if I was to say no?" And then the samurai get all tough on him. They say, "We must resort to our swords." And here's basically sums up Kamui's whole philosophy. "I don't like to be bound by the will of others. I am free to go where I please. And I am willing to risk everything for that freedom." So he says, "Get out of my way." The samurais refuse. And armed with only a towel, Kamui beats the shit out of these guys. This is amazing. It's like a locker room battle. He just has I don't know if the towel's wet. That would help, I guess. But he's totally kicking these guys' asses, and he's obviously not killing them. He doesn't want to kill them. So basically, they're all unconscious at the end of the battle. And then the crazy monk shows up again. This guy's everywhere. And he basically says, even you are no match for Utsetse, even though you're a great fighter, or you wouldn't have used me as you did. Because if you remember last story arc, he kind of used the monk. And so the monk is telling him why Utsetse's better than he is. And then it gets into this whole philosophy thing. He says, Kamui, you've forgotten one thing. And then he starts talking about, like, I guess it's like a parable. He says, can you cut the moon with your sword, Kamui? And he says, Kamui, of course, says, the moon is not a thing you can cut. He says, oh yeah, I'll show you. And the moon's reflection in this little pond, he cuts it with his bow staff. And Kamui says, that's only the shadow of the moon. Exactly, only the shadow. Like in this pool, in the little puddle in the boat, and in this hat full of water. The moon reflected in the water are without number, but there's only one real moon over there. You must cut the real moon. And then he attacks him. And Kamui thinks to himself, a sword is but a shadow. And so he gathers up all the samurai that he just knocked out, puts them in his boat. And this is the part I hope is explained better. It's a little poetic. I don't really understand it. Kamui says to the monk, there is one who invites the wind. The place where the winds gather is called Kasoze. Now a wind is blowing to the Yagyu lands. Why don't I chance the whirlwind in Kasoze? So it sounds like Kamui's going to continue to go to Yagyu, the Owari Yagyu castle. The samurai wake up in the boat, and they're just terrified. Kamui says, since you went to such trouble to escort me, then very well, let's go. So here's the villa, or / castle of the Owari Yagyu clan. And we see Genpo Yagyu, the official swordsmaster for the Owari Han. And he's testing a new sword on a corpse. And a retainer comes up and says, Kamui is here. He's here to see you. And Genpo says, bring him here. He asks Kamui if he wants to try out this new sword. And Kamui says, I must refuse. I have seen too much blood. And then we get a letter page. And now we have number 29. Ah, look at that cover. This guy's great. Oh, he's going to be inside. Looks like a Richard Nixon mask. Ridiculous. So Kasoze Part 3. This is the last chapter. This is last part of this chapter. So Genpo tells Kamui that he'll absolve Kamui of Izumo's death. If you remember, Izumo was the Owari Yagyu swordsman who was tasked to kill Utsetse. Kamui killed him last story arc. Kamui apologizes. He says, I mistook Lord Shima, that's Izumo, for Utsetse. And then this little mouse comes out. And all of a sudden, Kamui throws his tea, or maybe it's sake, into Genpo's face. and he attacks him. And he kills him very quickly. All these retainers run in. And Kamui just says, since he was so competent, you shouldn't really be worried that he's dead. It shouldn't concern you, his death. They're like, insolent bastard. But then the real Genpo shows up. That was just an imposter. He says, leave him. Apparently, it was a ninja disguised as Genpo. And he asks for Kamui's forgiveness. And then Genpo attacks him, the real Genpo, but it's just like one of those little test things, macho kind of, whatever they do in the action movies, you know. He mentions the one who invites the wind again. Genpo's trying to figure out why he's really there. But of course, Kamui's talking in this like vague, almost poetry. So he's not getting any real answers. Kamui says, do you mind if I spend the night in that shrine I saw on the way in? And so he goes to the shrine. And he's thinking more and more about what the monk said. He's watching a kingfisher dive into the water, you know, hunting fish. And the second attempt, the kingfisher fails. And Kamui thinks when he cannot read the minds of fish, even a kingfisher can fail. And basically, he kind of coalesces everything the monk told him. He figures out what he meant. He says, water has no shape. At any time, it can be in a round or a square vessel. It can freely conform to any shape. The moon, too, can reflect itself in the ocean, in a river, or even a pool. It can change accordingly without effort. This is the ultimate secret principle, not only in swordsmanship, but in the art of war. So, Kamui's got a new credo. And Kamui, it seems like Kamui's just standing in this field, and all of a sudden, the guy from the cover shows up with the Richard Nixon nose. And Kamui says, I don't know who you are, but I know how you got through the Yagyu's defenses. And he says, for a Tengu, it is an easy matter. And I guess Tengu translates to dick nose in English. No, I'm just kidding. It's a mythical creature with superhuman powers. So he claims to be this demon, but... And so they engage in battle. And basically this Tengu is showing Kamui all the secret sword techniques of the Owari Yagyu. The same thing, you know, the same knowledge that Utsetse had that got him killed. Or, sorry, that they want to kill him for. So he's not really trying to hurt Kamui, he's just showing him these techniques, these very secret techniques. And Kamui asks, why are you teaching me these techniques? And he says, last time you used me to achieve your ends, this time I want you to work for me. So Kamui realizes, I'm pretty sure it's the monk. We'll find out next issue for sure, but I'm pretty sure this is the monk again. And Kamui once again says, who are you? What's your game? What are you trying to do? And he laughs and says, you'll find out. Meanwhile, back at the Owari Yagyu castle, the head of the castle shows up, which is it's Genpo's brother. And they're basically having a meeting of all the bigwigs about what to do. The brother says, I've heard you've already made a deal with the ninja, the Iga ninja. And Toshikata, that's the brother, Toshikata says, well, it looks like we'll have to kill this Kamui then, won't we? So he's head of the clan. And he basically sends all of these guys out for their tasks. They're going to kill Kamui. We have an interesting article about the ninja organization of feudal society. Being a ninja seems pretty lowly, pretty lame. Because basically your whole life, you're suspicious. There's fear, tension, and secrecy. Even your fellow ninjas, you definitely can't trust them. But then when you're not like on a mission, you're just like hiding out in some small dinky village. And everyone knows you're a ninja there, so nobody likes you or trusts you. So it just seemed like they had little miserable lives. And, they were kind of poor. And nobody liked them. It's like me in high school. Nah, just kidding. I had some good friends in high school. But I wasn't cool. So there you go, guys. The Legend of Kamui, number 27 through 29. If you're confused, join the party. I'm still a little not clear about what's exactly going on in this epic, the Swordwind. I get most of it, but there's little things here and there where I'm like, is it a culture clash? Or am I just dumb? And, but overall, still digging the hell out of it. And this is just, I can't believe this nose on this guy. That's just crazy. Hope you enjoyed watching today's videos, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.